Welcome back to Profit and Odds. We've talked a little bit about gambling, we've talked a little bit about risk and reward, and something that I wanted to share with you today is something that me and my wife are actively experiencing in our own business. Because the games and the tables are fun, we like to talk theory, but I'd like to share with you that we are actually in the practice of trying to figure this out. Now, no, we don't run some multi-million-dollar business. We're a small e-commerce platform that sells kids' pajamas. And I want to talk through a little bit of the struggles and the things that we've seen and the changes that we've made to kind of highlight some of the stuff we've talked about in other videos. I'll share some other stories about businesses that I've tried to start and risks that I've taken, but specific to this one business, every time that we have found a problem and work on solving it, we think, oh, if we just fix this, we'll be set. If we just fix this, we'll take off. If we just fix this, every time. And every time we solve one problem, we walk headfirst into the next one. And so when we were first learning Shopify and marketing and manufacturers, it was always like, well, how do we run the website? What platform should we use? A really big question starting out was, how do we find a manufacturer? What does that process look like? And every time we solved one of those problems, we found out, well, guess what? That manufacturer is not very good because of this. And so we had to go and find another manufacturer. And now that process got faster because we already learned how to find a manufacturer. But now we're solving for finding a high quality manufacturer. Sometimes it feels like you're walking through a forest and you just got spider webs in your face, and just in time when you finally get all the spider webs off, you walk into another one. And unfortunately, I think that's just the nature of business, is that you're going in and you're solving all these little problems to try and make the system work better. But there isn't just a one-time fix that makes everything work. It's constantly twisting the little dials and playing with risk and trying an opportunity and seeing what the actual feedback is to your business. Specifically with manufacturing, when we were first looking for our first product, we got samples from 3 different companies, and the first 2 came back terrible. One of the samples, the body was super short and the legs were super long, kind of like Gru from the Minions. And we're like, well, that's obvious, we're not doing that. And we found one that we really liked. And so we said, okay, we're going to go with them. And we actually did our first run of pajamas with that company. But then we got the pajamas. The pajamas were good, but there was turnaround issues and high minimum quantity orders and struggles that we couldn't take as a business. And so we had to try and find somebody else with smaller minimum orders, and a little bit better on the colors were a little bit wrong on the second set that we were trying to order. And so we found a second company that we are working to do a second order with, and that's in the works right now. However, they also have a kind of higher minimum order quantity. And so we're working with a third company now to try and see if we can get that order quantity reduced so that we can do more sets, more patterns, more designs more frequently, instead of having to output a ton of inventory expense into one set and hopefully see if it sells. Next, I want to talk a little bit about marketing. We were running our Instagram, and we, on Instagram, we'll say, hey, do you want to boost this post? And so we'd say, oh, well, let's see. We'd throw $10 at it. And then I had a friend, he said that using the Facebook Pixel is one of the most important things that you can do. And so I just Googled how to use Facebook Pixel, and I watched a number of YouTube videos. I spent one evening, probably 4 or 5 hours, just trying to get it set up and integrated and connected to our Shopify store. And so I took all this time learning how to do this. And I'm not a marketer by trade, and so it probably took longer than it needed to. And so we were struggling through that. Eventually I got the Pixel set up, and I ran an ad, and I was like, okay, it worked. We didn't have a lot of engagement, but then I was able to make a lookalike audience, and I was starting to play with those levers. And it got to a point where we were learning and we were getting more traffic, but it wasn't converting well. And so we actually reached out to a friend that my wife knew, and she did marketing for a company they had worked at previously. And so we thought to ourselves, oh, she's going to be perfect. She's going to do all this stuff for us. We don't have to worry about it. It's going to be great. And whatever traffic we were seeing originally should have just exploded, was the thought. Well, after we got working with her, she did an amazing job with the content. She did an amazing job engaging and reacting to posts and leaving comments, and she did a great job. But when we asked if she could do the paid ads and the Facebook ads and the Google ads, she's like, well, I don't know that, but I can learn it. And we were like, well, we kind of want somebody who already knows it. And so we ended up actually having to let her go We were sad to let her go. We just couldn't afford her at the time. So that kind of goes into that risk reward, right? If we had unlimited money, we would have kept her. But we were working with our small pool of capital to try and grow it. So we had to make the decision to let her go. With that, we took another risk and hired a marketing agency. This agency was super exciting in the beginning. There was a team involved. They had all these different content creators, and they were talking about blowing our store up, and we were excited. But after about 2 or 3 months, that wasn't true. There was really long ads learning phases. The traffic came in waves. You'd see huge peaks of people come, and then days where nobody would visit the website. And then the conversion rate never really followed. So what we were seeing of about a 2% conversion rate, when they got in, it dropped our conversion rate to 0.6%, which obviously is not great. So really high traffic, low conversion. And we feel like our website's pretty good. And so we're trying to figure that out. We were working with them, and eventually we ended up letting them go last week. So again, it's kind of that story, right? If we tried one thing, we thought something would happen, it didn't quite work the way that we'd hope, and then we have to adjust. So now for marketing, we're back to ourselves. We're trying to figure that out. We're looking into different videos, courses, trying to educate ourselves, because at the end of the day, you care the most about your business, not somebody else, and you're also free. The biggest thing we've learned here is that there's not a one-time solution. There's not this one optimization that you do early on that sets you up for the rest of your life. Business is constantly about finding things that are wrong and making a slight adjustment and seeing what happens. And sometimes you're going to adjust the wrong way, like we did with marketing or with some of the manufacturers, but sometimes it might just be a little bit better. And you'll say, okay, I'm going to leave that piece, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to tweak this. I'm just going to mess with it. And it's the series of twists and adjustments that help the business to grow and to scale. It's not just doing one thing. We wish it was. We hope it was, right? And every time we make an adjustment, we always hope, is this the one? Is this the one? But we've frankly learned that that's not true. Another thing that me and my wife are typically very prone to is this analysis paralysis idea. We want the system to be perfect before we hit play. And it's been very difficult for us to kind of overcome that, to find ways to say, okay, the rest of the system's fine. We're just going to try this piece. We have to move forward. Otherwise, we're never going to make it. And so whatever you're doing, maybe in your businesses or your life, over optimizing before you take any steps is kind of a bad idea. You want to make progress. You want to take action. You want that feedback to say, hey, actually, that thing right there is not productive. We need to adjust over here to become more productive. To bring it back to kind of the theme of this channel, risk and reward, right? We take the risk. We've spent a lot of money to make these adjustments and changes. We paid that marketing company a couple $1,000s. We'll never get that back. But now we know that if we're going to go to work with an agency, we know the questions to ask. We know what the expectation is. And now we know how much of a bankroll we need to be able to work with an agency. And so I wouldn't call it a loss, but it is a risk. We risked money to take a chance, and instead of getting profits, we got a lesson. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast, and it's something that everybody's got to overcome. But if you don't take the risk, right? If we had never hired that marketing agency, we may sit here this whole time and think, well, what if somebody scaled our business for us? What if all these what ifs, and that can also paralyze you because you're not sure where to go. So I would offer that if you're in a place where you feel stuck, just try one thing. Don't risk the whole bankroll. Try to keep it small, try to keep it manageable, but just take a chance and then see what the feedback is. If it's good, continue. If it's not, stop. That also goes with contracts. We signed a 6-month contract with that marketing agency thinking that this would be the solution. And we actually had to pay a backout fee 3 months in. We took on more risk than we probably should have, and ultimately we had to pay cash to mitigate that risk. And so try to keep things small, but take those chances, take those opportunities, and just see where it goes. Don't get too caught on, I want to know where it goes before I take a step. So if you have any questions, if you want to know more about what we're doing, leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe. I'm going to continue to post these videos. My goal is every Monday a video, and so you'll see some consistency with the channel. And we'll go back and forth. We'll talk about table games. We'll talk about business. I was working on a couple ideas of live business things that we can do on this channel together. But it was my wife's birthday this weekend, so we didn't get that this weekend, hopefully next. But anyway, please like, subscribe, engage. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what challenges you're facing. And if it's something that I've already walked into, I'm going to let you know. I'll even make a video on, hey, so-and-so asked this question. Here's what I've learned. And I think that's how we can grow an amazing community together. And all of us can become entrepreneurs. And hopefully we can share some of that risk so that we're not all losing our bankroll and we can all come out profitable. Thank you.